I would be so angry and so pissed off. It would ruin my entire day. I'm like, to go test drive a car that I've been working with dealerships to try to see if we can get a deal on?
Yeah, Gary's like, you're welcome.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we don't want that to happen. I don't want to ruin your day at 5:30 in the afternoon. Live, laugh, or run away. Well, hello there. I'm Gary.
I'm Georgie.
Hey.
Hey.
Back in the saddle again.
You did that on the first episode.
I know. That was like a long time ago, though.
Oh, Leo's letting himself out.
Yeah.
That's neat.
So, man, what a day, huh? What a day.
It has been... Life's been lifin'.
Life's been lifin'. I tell you what, I think we should talk about the death of your car.
Yes.
So, your beloved 2005 PT Cruiser convertible, purple, turbo. We'll all take a moment of silence.
So, that would not be a car I would normally drive, but when my dad passed, I was like, free vehicle, no car payment, not really drive super far. I didn't really drive with the top down. I'm not that kind of person. Like, hey, look at me. It's super awkward.
Thelma and Louise.
You will rarely ever see me driving with a top down. Like, I just feel like, look at me, aren't I amazing?
So, safe to say you don't prefer driving topless.
No.
Yeah.
You would prefer that I'm
So, I came home one day a few weeks ago, and
a few weeks? It was the beginning of December.
A few months ago. And I'm like, why is there like this long trail of what is on the driveway? And I look, and there's this long, wide oil slick in the driveway from the street all the way up. And I'm like, huh, something's leaking. And I looked at it and I'm like, that's oil. And so I came inside and I'm like, hey, did you notice if your car's leaking something? Is your car leaking oil?
And I was like, no, not that I don't really look behind me after I go into the garage.
I'm like, you didn't notice anything at work? No.
No.
Like, I think your car is like, I think all the oil came out of it. That's what it looked like.
I can't believe I made it home.
And so we started it up. I started it up and I looked underneath, and as soon as you start it up, it's just pouring oil out in the garage. I'm like, huh, that's not good.
Yeah, so then he's like, oh, we got to start thinking about getting a car. He's been telling me this for like the last year and a half. Like, that car, it's not going to last a long time. You got to start thinking about it.
It is 2005.
Like, I know, but it only had 60,000 miles on it when I got it.
Yeah.
And I don't drive that much, so no car payment.
Yeah.
So he's like, think we're just going to, and I'm like, all right, I want to see. I want to pull it apart, and I want to see.
Which I love about you.
Thank you.
You're like, I will fix this. That's what you said. You're like, I will fix this. I'm like, well, I couldn't really tell where the oil is coming from. I'm like, I can see that it's not good. And, I've rebuilt an engine before in my life.
Mm-hmm.
When I was in my younger days, I like to tinker around and stuff. And so I have a pretty good understanding, but anybody that's owned a PT Cruiser knows that there's literally no room in that engine compartment for anything, let alone you can't even replace the headlights without pulling the engine because it's so tight in there.
Well, and it's a turbo. So the turbo is back behind, like you might have a little bit of room, but that turbo is right back there.
Yeah, the turbo takes up the rest of the space between the engine and the firewall.
Yep.
So I'm like, well, I can't really tell. And then the car sits pretty low, so I'm like trying to squeeze under there. I jacked it up a little bit and like, man, I hope this car doesn't fall on my chest because squish me. Mm-hmm. Using all safety precautions, but still have that thought.
Yeah.
But, so I'm like, I can't
there's always
tell.
something like, Yeah, I don't know what happened. That
I can't tell.
fell in.
So George's like, well, we'll just take it apart till we figure it out. Okay, we'll just start taking apart the top of the engine.
Well, so Gary's in the house. He's cooking bread. He's making bread from scratch.
Yeah.
I'm out in the garage pulling apart the manifold, starting to get all
and
that.
You came in and I'm like, don't bring those greasy hands in here. I'm trying to cook bread. What do you get back over there?
I'm like, glad we're staying in our roles. Just kidding.
Our culturally normative roles.
Yeah, yeah. Gary's
It was
in the
good
kitchen.
bread. I mean, it was okay bread.
It was good.
I could do better.
Yeah.
So anyway, you're like, we're looking at some YouTube videos and trying to figure out, okay, I'm like, well, if we can get down, we can at least rule out that it's the head gasket valve. I wouldn't think it was, but it's really hard to tell.
I was really hoping.
So Georgie start, taking apart. And I'm like, okay, we can remove this. We made some progress.
Yeah, we did.
And we got it all the way down and pulled off the valve cover, and that was not the problem.
Yep, there was nothing.
But we pulled off the connections to the turbo. We didn't actually pull the turbo out, but got enough to kind of get back in there. And I'm like, this is
A mixture.
looks like a rear main seal leak, and that would make sense with the amount of oil that was coming out.
Well, and we think it had some transmission oil or some transmission fluid in there.
Yeah, there was definitely
There's something going on.
multiple seals broke. Yeah. I was going to say little old lady from Pasadena, but you're not really old or little, but you do like to go fast.
I know. That car was so zippy.
It was a turbo.
It's great.
So then we're like, okay. I said, well, unless you want to pull the engine, this is about as far as we're going to take it.
Yeah.
So we all had a moment of silence.
Uncle, I give. Can't fix
And then
it
you're like,
anymore.
well, we're not buying another car.
Yeah, I was out of decisions for 2024 and the first month of 2025.
Like, I'm done.
I can't make a good. I mean, you only have so many good decisions.
I'm like, okay. I said, that's fine. I can give you rides. And then it was like about a month of, Ubering you around. Then you're like, we don't really need to get another car, unless, of course, you get tired of shuttling me around.
Yeah.
And
Well, I got around. There's Ubers, cost like $8.
Yeah. So when we were kids, they're always like, don't get into a car with a stranger. And 2025, it's like, hey, any stranger want to come pick me up? Here I am. My location to the exact spot I'm standing.
Yeah,
come get me.
This is where I work, and this is where I live. Yeah. And this is my schedule.
And nobody's home to give me a ride,
Yeah.
so nobody's home. Why don't you drop me off here? Oh, I'm leaving for work.
Yeah.
Nobody's home. Maybe you want to go see what I have in my house. The whole thing is crazy.
It is.
It really is.
I've met some great
For
people,
us
though.
70s kids, we're like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Now, we were the latchkey generation.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, in the meantime.
Walking home from school,
Yeah.
5 years old, and I got a key around my neck. Hey, you want to know how to get into my house? Follow me.
Yeah. Yeah, and then you're like, some guy pulled over in a car and asked me to get in. I mean, that was such a common thing.
You need a ride? I can give you a ride.
Yeah.
I'm good, thanks.
Yeah, I want to come
Just
home
follow
alone.
me and you'll know where I live.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, so yeah, that's a no-go. So now we're into 2025, and I'm like,
So this is where it gets funny, because today, Gary said, hey, let's go do this when I get done with work. And I was like, okay. I mean, I was pretty tired. I haven't really slept.
I was like, we're going to go out and we're going to do something. And
Yeah.
just like, but I was like, it's been a long day, and I was like, I'm not feeling like wanting to go out to that tonight. So I'm like, I just texted Georgie. I'm like, hey, not really feeling up for that, but I do have an alternative idea.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay. So I get home, and she's like, yeah, I haven't had much sleep, so it's probably good that we're not going to. I'm like, so how about I'm talking to this dealership, and we could go look at this car. And and Georgie's response was, she's like, first of all, I don't know if she recovered from her eye roll. I think she's still, the eyes might still be in the back of her head, and she looked so exasperated and looked up into the ceiling as if all of the world has suddenly just turned around upside down and backwards. And she's like, what did you say? You said,
I said, I do not want to do that. That would completely ruin my day,
Yeah.
and I would be so pissed off having to go look at a car tonight.
Yeah, that's what it was. You're like, I would be so angry and so pissed off. It would ruin my entire day.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, to go test drive a car that I've been working with dealerships to try to see if we can get a deal on?
Yeah, Gary's like, you're welcome.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we don't want that to happen. I don't want to ruin your day at 5:30 in the afternoon after the entire long day. Now that's going to push you over.
I got a long night ahead of me of being awake.
That's going to push you over the edge. Driving a car and test driving a new car that you might. That's it. Angry. I'm like, angry.
I know. And pissed off.
I'm like, wow. Well.
And then I just laughed. We just laughed. Gary just laughed. I laughed. I just, look,
And so here we are recording a podcast.
Yeah. Well, so then he goes, well, I mean, would it just be better if I just bought a car, a vehicle and brought it home? And I'm like, yeah.
Or
and
would
he's
it?
like,
would it be better?
He goes,
because
but I offered some. Okay, now hear me when I say, he's like, hey, what about this BMW? I'm like, what? No, absolutely not.
First of all,
no.
First of all, they're, I look for deals. I can find the good deals.
Yeah, you can.
And, for those
so
listening,
you have to fix them.
PSA, the dealers like to usually clear their inventory at the end of the month, so you can sometimes get a good deal if you're working on it, getting something you're interested in, and they're trying to move their inventory. It depends on their stock. So
sure.
I'm working these deals, and I'm looking for things, and I'm like, I found a good deal, and it was a BMW SUV. And I'm like, look at this thing. It was great price, really nice, late model. And I'm like, would you drive this? And I showed her the picture of it, and she's like, I am not that pretentious.
I'm like,
I'm like,
I mean,
pretentious.
And it's not that I think other people are. Like, if I'm not willing to drive with my top down on my PT Cruiser, what part of, hey, I'm going to drive around in a BMW? Not to mention they cost $1 bajillion to fix. No thanks.
Okay, and they also have a pretty good track record.
Yeah, but no thanks.
But I think the whole thing, it wasn't even that. It was like, you're like, I would not drive that. I'm like, I get this car. You would literally not drive it? She's like, well, I would drive it, but I wouldn't be happy about it. I'm like, it's a BMW SUV. It's a very nice. It's not like super new. It was like a 2020 or 2019 or something.
I said I would feel super uncomfortable driving to church.
Like,
he's like, what? And then I asked Dawn. I was like, Dawn.
Yeah. Okay.
Do I seem like somebody who would drive a BMW?
Yeah, Dawn.
And she just kind of sat there.
She wouldn't. I'm like, Dawn, weigh in on. Yeah, let's hear Dawn. In fact, Dawn listening. I'm like, Dawn, you should weigh in on this. Let's hear it. And she didn't. Smart woman. Because I'm like, first of all, nobody's going to care, at least that you're driving to church. I don't know why that would be.
I don't know. It's just, I don't know. I don't know.
You're like, I know.
I don't know.
So then I'm like, what about this Subaru?
And I was like, no, they cost an arm and a leg to fix.
Again, another good deal. And you're like, no.
No, because you have to look at fixing them, right?
One of the most reliable cars, because they are a little more expensive initially, the Subarus.
And
very, very strong track record.
Look.
And you want to talk about reliability. When I met you a quarter of a century ago.
Yeah, remember?
You were driving a Volkswagen Jetta.
Yeah, and I felt like it was the fanciest car in the whole wide world.
It was what?
I felt like it was the fanciest car in the whole wide world because it had a sunroof.
Let me tell you. Now, it was a nice car. No, it wasn't a bad car, But let me tell you, after we got married, I swear I took that car every other week in for something.
I know.
And it was literally $500-$600 every
Yes,
single other
I
week.
know.
I'm like, this thing has got to go.
I agree. But
so
we need to learn from our mistakes.
But that was a Volkswagen. I'm not going to get a Volkswagen.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get a VW.
But I don't want a Subaru.
It
costs too much.
Don't want a nice BMW. Great deal on that car, by the way. It was really
great.
So then you're like, just get me.
I'm like,
what we know: Honda, Toyota.
Like that's what I know. I know how they ride. I know how they handle.
So
and nothing against
fine.
American made.
So, but I should just go get her a car and just drive up
Yeah.
with it. And so, but I too take the risk if I do that, that she might be driving around angry. So I'm sorry to anybody that has to encounter Georgie
My
driving around in
angry
her new BMW because she might be angry about it. But I know she has nice, solid transportation.
I know you're so freaked out when I Uber. You're like, make sure you let me know that you got home.
I mean,
I send you the safety clickety-click in the app.
I mean,
I met some really great people. Now, I have had some funky somebody picking me up in a pickup truck, which pretty sure you can't
even do it.
You can't do that in an Uber, and I'm pretty sure he was heading to work. But I made it alive, probably because he's like, she's a lot and she's talking a lot right now.
Like that. Wasn't there that TikTok of the lady being kidnapped and she's in the back seat of the
And she's
kidnapper?
like,
And
oh,
she's like,
my legs, they're cramping.
I can't sit like this. How about this? Can I sit like this? What do you think? Can we move this over here? How about that? We'll have to post a link to that. I don't know. So it is weird. No
No
not
good
saying anything
deed.
about Uber drivers. And
No,
I think it's
absolutely
great that we have a gig economy and
Good.
that you can do that. It's just it's like it's so. If you think about it for just a little bit.
No, I can't because I would never get in one. So I can't.
Anyway, we'll
I
see
do
what
have
happens.
little heart palpitations when I do, because it is. It's like, I don't know.
It's
Who knows?
probably-
Maybe this person's like, what's that movie a long time ago where the guy like literally stops in the middle of the interstate. They're like they're backed up and he just flips out and just gets out of the car and like leaves and walks off. I can't even remember what that movie
yeah.
was. And he's super mad. I'm like, how do I know somebody's not at that limit?
You'd be like, hey, you get in the car and be like, hey, for all you know, I could be a murderer. He's like, ha, ha, ha. What are the odds that there'd be two murderers in the same car?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. I will,
But I just think you need to show up with it.
I think I got to go right now because I'm going to go do some test drives and
For the love.
I'm just going to go get you. You're gonna get what you get and you don't throw a fit, like Melanie would say.
That's right. Yeah, Melanie, Minda,
and
both those ladies.
Maybe you do need to work through that anger driving around in a nice car.
I will have fire on my head every day. I'm just kidding.
She's on fire.
No, I mean, I don't know. If I'm making you go and get it, I guess. I don't care. It's a car.
But yet you do.
But I don't. Okay, I do care if it's going to cost $1 million to fix because it's me. So, and you can't, newer cars, you can't fix. I can't just go and fix it myself. So now I have to rely on some Joe Schmo mechanic to give me a good deal. That's why I have to have you go in there. Because if I walk in there, they're like, well, this is for sure going to go up $500.
I mean,
she don't know.
There's something to that. The
There is
girls,
something.
I mean, how many times have the girls, Ari, be like, hey, can you talk to this guy? Mm-hmm. She'll just call me and be like, hey, can you talk to this guy trying to sell me something? And she's going to get her oil changed. And they're trying to sell her $500 worth of stuff. And I'm like, no, she doesn't need a filter for the interior cabin. No, she doesn't need new windshield wipers.
Yeah.
No, she doesn't need an air
We
filter
do
there.
all of that ourselves.
No, she doesn't need blinker fluid. So there's something to that, which is why?
I mean, they're not I mean, I can't speak for everybody, but they're not being dishonest. She probably does need them, but that's not, she doesn't know. And
That's why if you find a good mechanic, you got to stick with them
you
because
really do.
it is.
It's rough.
It's rough, and
just
for some
pretty much-
reason, the girls encounter more problems with mechanics than it's just crazy. So anyway, how do you guys deal with buying a new car? Does your spouse get angry and pissed off and ruin their
fancy
entire
cars.
day? Let us know. Reach out to us. We'd love to hear from you. I do appreciate that you are conscious of not spending a lot of money. So, and you're willing to fix things. So, but anyway, let us know. Reach out to us. We'd love to hear from you. And just another day in the life.
Yep, that's right.
Until next time, we'll see ya.
See ya.